Where to begin? So, first off, this is a labor of love. I had to travel last weekend for work and then immediately go into this Atlanta debate extravaganza. It's like been several days. And then today I stopped by Stacey Abrams' Fair Fight Action. Look at my new t-shirt. Democracy only works when we work for it. Anyway, that's a whole other story. They're calling 300,000 voters who are at risk of being purged from Georgia's voter registration. And they're mostly people of color. African Americans, Asian, Latino, young people. So they started the phone bank today, and they're calling people to let them know what's happening and trying to prepare for all of that. Oh my gosh. So I'm tired, okay? I'm very tired. There's so many things I could be doing, like washing and twisting my hair and just unpacking from a few days ago. But I needed to come on here while it's fresh and tell you what happened. This one key component that happened last night at the debate. I attended the debate. Me and my best friend, business partner, we had an opportunity to go. We'll tell you about that later. To the MSNBC debate here in Atlanta, the presidential debate. Per the request from some of you, we are going to put these videos on YouTube. I really didn't want to do it because I just don't want to deal with the hateration and, all that. But Kimi, she's trying to push me outside my comfort zone. And anyway, we're going to figure it all out this weekend. And we are going to start doing these videos because for whatever reason, I'm being drawn into these, I'm in politics adjacent and, I've worked in politics. I can't go into my whole resume, but we live in a country where a mayor who's only gotten about 8,000 to 10,000 votes can somehow run against an incumbent president. And anyway, my whole point is I got a resume in politics, and go back and watch some of my old videos because I'm just so tired of these social media experts who don't have any training or jobs or recent training or who aren't out there talking to people, and they're these political experts and pundits and all this. I'm out there. And again, I'll get into all that later. But what I do want to come on here and say, I witnessed something yesterday that I thought was, it's been backing what I said a few weeks ago in South Carolina. I firmly believe that these television networks, cable networks particularly, including liberal media or conservative, blah, 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 I really believe that these networks, I'm not saying it's all the journalists or whatever else, I believe they really want a second term of Donald Trump because it is more money, it's more exciting, and, he does something crazy, then the liberals just, they come on and, go back. That is more exciting than a more stable administration under, let's say, Biden. And Biden, I believe, is still one of the strongest, and I feel like the media is pushing some of these candidates, and they are mischaracterizing and being deceptive. And I'm not talking about Fox, put two and two together, but I'm seeing, like I said, I'm seeing things with my own eyes, and that's why I'm coming on and talking to you about it, okay? This is not something I'm watching and reading a blog or listening to a podcast, even though I do those things too. These are things I'm seeing with my own eyes. For some reason, I'm just being thrust into these positions, anyway. Sorry, like I said, I'm really tired. Yesterday after the debate, let me back it up. Georgia's a battleground state, okay? It went blue in 2018 when Stacey Abrams flipped the state when she really was elected governor. And the Secretary of State, he would not recuse himself. And he started purging all these votes, and it was a big mess. And he ended up stealing the election. Now he's governor. So Georgia's really blue. The last time it went blue in a presidential election was Bill Clinton, I think in 92 or 96 or something. So that is one of the reasons the DNC had the debate in Atlanta. It's also another reason Donald Trump has his eyes on Georgia because Georgia, the state, is a battleground state. So he's keeping his eyes on Georgia. He was here a few weeks ago. So even when he goes to other states, Louisiana, Mississippi, when he was stomping for them, he mentioned Stacey Abrams and Georgia and mentioned Oprah. Anyway, Trump knows. Trump knows. The energy, I know it's different things happening in different states. Some states, the Democratic Party is a hot mess. I.e., well, I don't want to knock on clock certain states, not yet at least. I'm going to try to keep it cool. Georgia is not one of those places. When Stacey lost, no, it's not lost, but when she won and it was stolen, and then, she had to give her non-concession speech or whatever, people were pissed, and they continued to organize. And, I mean, me included. So people are fired up here in Georgia. Democrats are fired up and everything else. So who has read Stacey Abrams' playbook? Please let me know who has read that. I try to pass this around. This is something that Stacey and her people put together. It's called Stacey Abrams' Playbook. I think it's in a Google Doc. She outlines how to win Georgia and some of the other battleground states. Math, numbers, okay? Please read it and check it out, okay? In it, she says, Georgia has the most African-American voters of any battleground state. I think the next one might be North Carolina, and then I think the next one after that is Florida. But definitely the top 5 are those 3 states. My point, after the debate yesterday, I've noticed this on TV. What normally happens is the debate ends and the candidates, they start talking, they come off stage, they start talking to their families, people in the audience and stuff like that. So we were in the 4th row, and I was sitting next to, it was a section of college students from Vanderbilt in Tennessee. They were part of some kind of lottery, and about maybe 20 or 30 of them got a chance to attend the debate. All ages, races, ethnicities, blah, blah, blah. All identities, many identities. So they're all sitting there, and the people that they were into were, I'm not saying everybody, but there were people, into Yang, into Bernie, into Warren, the people promising everybody all the free stuff. I get it. I'm not saying that's the only reason, but I just think it's interesting. So they were into them, a few Pete's, here and there. So I was just listening, and everything. And I was supporting, if people had a good point or whatever, I would clap, but of course I'm going to clap for my favorites. So anyway, after the debate was over, the debate ended, and Warren, Harris, most of the candidates, they were, by the stage, leaning in, taking selfies and stuff like that. Well, by the time we got out of our row, I mean, it maybe took about a couple of minutes, maybe no more than 5, to actually, get out of the row, because everybody's, moving around trying to talk to everybody. By the time we got out of our row, the college students, we were in the 4th row, they were like, hey, Bernie, I love you, hey, and hey, yelling to Bernie. And next thing you know, by the time we got from the 4th row to the front of the stage, where Biden was standing, the other candidates were gone. Now, I talked to my mom just now, and I was telling her about it, because she don't watch these debates. She's like, this is a joke. It's too many and blah, blah, blah. It's ridiculous. So, but she watched, obviously because I was there, and everything. So she kind of, recorded and was in and out. She said, I was telling her this story, and she said, well, wait a minute. MSNBC, who hosted, debate, she says, yeah, they were showing Warren taking selfies with everybody. And she said they kept the camera mostly on Warren, taking these selfies at the end of the debate after it was over. And then, it cut, and that was the end of the debate. Oh, well, let me tell you. And I have video, okay? Because at first I did post it in my story. I did post it in my Facebook story, but I just wrote some stuff. But I said, no, I got to come on ASAP so I can really explain this to you. So by the time we got to the front, I was going to try to say hi and talk to, Vice President Biden again and everything. But, at the same time, I know I've taken several pictures and talked to him and everything, in the last month or so. So I was like, all right, so I was just kind of hanging out. All of a sudden, it was like a group, African-American voters. Yes, they're mostly older. They're coming over. Hey, Joe, hey, Joe's, he's standing up on the stage. He crouches down, squatting, bended knees. He was fine. He's grabbing people's phones. He's taking them selfies. Hey, how you doing? Where you from? Talking, connecting with people and everything. And it was just like a real fun, atmosphere. Now, this is, like I said, this is about, at this point, the debate is probably a good 10, 15 minutes after the debate has ended. Now, I'm going to, because I like to keep it real. There was one other person who was at the end of the stage. That was Andrew Yang. There was not as much of a crowd around him at that point, 10, 15 minutes after the debate, but he was kind of hanging out, taking a few photos, talking to people. Where were the other candidates? Booker, Harris, Warren, Pete, Steyer. They were gone. All of them, really? Biden hadn't even talked to his wife. He was like, where's Dr. Jill? He's like, I didn't even talk to her. Next thing you know, one of his assistants or, somebody that works with his team, that I know, that I don't know the person, but like I'm familiar with them. She was trying to climb over people to tell, Biden something like, probably like, oh, the plane's going to be leaving, or something. I don't know for sure. But this is Joe Biden. Like, this is what his reputation is. Like, I know someone who, worked for the Obama campaign who had to travel with him. And he said every time Joe wants to say hi to everybody and talk to people, have conversations, connect with them, and that, they'll be on this strict schedule and they're like, come on, Joe. And he's trying to say hi to the, the housekeeping, the bus driver, the person on, he's trying to connect and talk to everybody because that is who Joe Biden is. So why is this important? I cannot for the life of me. It makes me, like, it really pisses me off. It hurts my feelings and pisses me off. And it makes me sad for people who are really believing in some of these candidates. And I don't want to, I really do not want to, I don't want to bash these Dem candidates. And I just want to be real objective here. But someone who has worked in politics on various levels, but particularly grassroots organizing, whenever you have an opportunity to connect with a voter and make contact and speak with them and everything, you take that. Obama gets it, and I believe Biden gets it. But Biden already got it. But there's no way he can have a 30-something career or 27 years or whatever as senator before being a vice president. And then for Barack Obama to choose him as a vice president, there has to be a certain ideology or understanding, about people and everything else. So, and then, once he was vice president, he spent 8 years, doing this. But I don't even want to get into all that. What I want to focus on is, why are we in a battleground state that has the most African-American voters in any battleground state, in a political party that is made up 25% of black voters make up the Democratic Party? We know from 2016, one of the reasons, not all, but one of the reasons that Hillary lost is because she, even though she got a good, 89% or whatever of black votes, it still was not enough. And it was a dip in some of her black voter turnout in key battleground states, in cities like Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, or Philly, Pennsylvania, and what was the third one? I don't know. It's anyway, like I said, it's one, whatever the third battleground is in the Midwest. Numbers were down. Anyway, why for the life of me, I just cannot understand that after the debate, these candidates did not stick around to talk and connect with people. Biden literally stuck around. I mean, I was trying to wait until he was going to leave. I was tired because I had a long day. He was still there. I mean, he stayed a good, I mean, when I left, he had maybe been there a good 20, 30 minutes. So after this group of African-American voters, what ends up happening? The college kids, they're not kids, but, young people, all their little favorites, they were gone. So when they see Joe talking, they turn to Joe. Joe, hey, Joe, Joe, let's take a, Joe's taking photos with the college kids. They may not even support him, but he took time with them. And they were kind of, kikiing, throughout the debate and stuff like that. And, they weren't being like malicious. I mean, I don't really think most of them were being malicious. They like who they like and everything. And, the younger voters, some, not all, relax. I can show you some young Biden supporters. But by the end, it was their Uncle Joe. Bernie wasn't there. Harris wasn't there. Warren wasn't there. Booker wasn't there. Steyer wasn't there. The only one who was there was Joe. And then even Yang, at some point, he got off the stage and he was like in the, in the corner just talking to somebody. He was still, visibly out, but he was off, Joe. And then what ended up happening is I was looking at him like, how are you, squatting like this after standing for 2 hours on your feet after this debate? And he's bent knees, squat, taking these photos, and then he says, hey, so people are going, hey, Charles is kind of going crazy, and then he's like, he's like, wait, hold on, everybody, I don't want anybody to get hurt. Let me come down there. And then he sits down on the stage and then slides off the stage and stands up, and he's still taking photos. I was too tired. I mean, I could have gotten in there again and say hi, but I was tired, and then I was just like, let somebody else have a chance and everything else. And when I left, he was still doing it. And I got video to show you. And trust and believe, because I know, people are on this thing where they like to see and hear and believe what they want to. Whether or not it's true, whether or not it's, been proven, or it's like a social media thing or internet. People want to believe what they want to believe. And so my question to people are, when you look at that video, if you think all those young people would be sitting there clamoring around Joe if Bernie was in the room or Warren was in the room or Harris was in the room, I highly doubt it. They're clamored around there because he was the only one who took the time and energy to stop and connect with people. And there was it was an older, elderly woman, real cute, spunky vibe, and she got into the little crowd and everything, because like Joe was like right here, and she gets into the the crowd, and I hear Joe say, and he's like, hey, how you doing? And she's like, I'm not the greatest at accents, but I'll leave that to Kimi. but she was like, oh, hello, Joe. I'm not gonna try it. Anyway, it was a New York accent, and so she says hi to Joe, and then immediately Joe's like, what part of New York are you from? And she's like, I'm from Brooklyn or whatever. And he's like, love Brooklyn. And he's like, thank you so much for coming. He's like, God bless, I love you. God bless you. And this lady was like, that's all I needed. That's all I needed. And she's like, and he walks off and everything. That is what voters remember. Particularly voters who are susceptible to voter suppression, young people, people of color. When we go to vote, it's not that easy, okay? Look at history. When we go to vote and you want to ask people to stand in line for 5 hours, or to give up time away from their family, or give up time away from their job they're not doing it because of a 2% tax increase. They're doing it because they personally have a connection with that candidate, or with their organizer, with their campaign, or whatever the case may be. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, some people are going to support these people regardless. But I just cannot understand for the life of me. If you know Booker, Harris, Warren, Pete, and by the skin of his teeth to not be in this list, Sanders, if you know that you are new faces and you are struggling or attempting to put together a coalition that includes a strong coalition of black voters who are loyal to the Democratic Party, and you are in Atlanta, Georgia, one of the first times I don't know if it was the first time they ever held the debate in Georgia at Tyler Perry Studios, why would you not stick around? I'd be out like trying to stick around more than the next person. You know what I mean? Like, why did all of these people leave? And then my question is, when you look at who was talking about voter suppression, and I'm sorry, but there's been a lot of Democratic candidates who have come and kissed the ring of Stacey Abrams and the work she's been doing here and around the country around voter suppression. The people who mentioned it during the debate were Cory Booker, because I think, they're friendly or whatever, Amy Klobuchar, and because she does, some stuff here. I know Yang has said something about it. And don't get me wrong, I know, Biden, during the debate, those people said it. Biden didn't say it during the debate. But I find it very interesting that these people did not stick around to connect with voters, particularly their young supporters who are yelling at you from a stage, hey, Bernie, hey, we love you. He didn't stick around, he might have taken a few photos, first fight, gone. Harris too, leaning in the stage, gone. Warren, she quickly was in the corner, taking a few selfies, gone. I don't get it. I don't. And I don't get why MSNBC tried to make it seem like Warren was the one out there. Now, if Warren could sit up there and take 50,000 selfies or whatever the heck it was during that 5-hour event in New York City, a blue state, or, the city, but, the state's also blue. I don't understand how you did not pencil whatever time into your little calendar, not just her, but all these other people, to stay back after the debate, which people normally do, and take some photos and connect with people. But y'all want me to have faith in these people when, as of right now, are all these polls lying? Is everybody historically? These people are struggling to build that coalition. Now, hey, I could be wrong. I don't know what's going to happen in February and everything else. But let me tell you this. Any candidate who is struggling with black, African-American voters, Latino voters, but definitely African-American voters, by the time South Carolina comes around and Super Tuesdays, and I don't care if it's in the South and this and that and this and that and this and that, if they're struggling, they got to go. They can't win. They cannot win. It is math. We need Obama 2008 level turnout, and particularly with black voters in key battleground states in these, some of these cities. It can't, 89% isn't good enough. 3 to 5 million votes isn't good enough, because it will end up being another popular vote win for the Dems and an electoral college loss for Trump. And let me tell you one more thing before I turn this off. I heard yesterday from a very prominent person who I will maybe tell you about later, historical figure, who said he remembers when Nixon was, going under the whole impeachment, process. And he said something about Nixon at one point was like, I'll pick up this red phone, or, I'll pick up that red phone and he was like having a breakdown. Like, I'll do something to, I guess, stop this impeachment, or or to threaten something. This person said, this wasn't at the debate, it was at another event. This person said, Democrats also need to be ready for the possibility that the Republicans that we might have to run against a moderate Republican. It could be Pence. It could be Nikki Haley. It could be Romney. It could be any of these people. And we don't know what will happen with that. I don't know, y'all. I'm back to what I'm saying. Because again, this is the second time with my own aunt. And I'm going to do a whole other video about this whole thing about Pete lying about this black support he had in South Carolina. He got caught. Remember I told y'all about that? How this article came out talking about Pete had 400 South Carolinians endorsing him for his Frederick Douglass anti-racism plan that I'm trying to tell you all the truth of what I am seeing, and I'm trying not to be like too, sarcastic and petty. I'm really working on that personally for myself. Pete, about a month ago, a few weeks ago, I went to that South Carolina Criminal Justice Forum. He had an event, mostly white people were in the room, and he didn't fill the room. And then this blog came out trying to characterize that Pete had 400 endorsements, and they were trying to present it like it was from black people. And when I was in the room, like I said, I didn't even see like 50 black people who were there for Pete. It was mostly white people in South Carolina. Anyway, turns out, y'all Google this, please. Y'all, I can't do all this research by myself. Y'all got to follow up and read some of you all, And so, unless you just want to believe what you want to believe. So it ends up turning out that Pete, out of those 400 people, number one, they said like 297 out of the 400 people were white people on this list. But they're making it seem like it was 400 black people coming out for Pete. Number two, some of the black people who were on the list said that, and they're quoted, full names and everything, they said they didn't even endorse Pete. They just said they were asked about his racism plan, and I guess they were like, because it's like saying everything perfectly, that you want to hear, Anyway, so yeah, this racism plan that he came out with, they were just kind of like, oh yeah, it's a good plan, or something. And then the campaign, without their permission, used their names and made it seem like they had endorsed Pete for president. And one of these people, they're like a chairperson or something for Bernie Sanders. Like, they're like, it's crazy. So, look, Pete, he might be a nice man. I don't know this man personally. Whatever. Maybe he can be president 2024, whatever. The point I'm trying to make, why is the media, particularly as well, or whatever you want to say, oh my God, that sounded crazy. Why are they mischaracterizing what is happening on the ground and pushing candidates who have mostly white, professional, college-educated, wealthy coalitions? That is Pete and Warren's coalition as of right now. Maybe miracle or something, not a miracle for them. Maybe something will dramatically change. But again, Biden has the strongest, most diverse coalition of people according to race, ethnicity, age, income, and educational level, and region. Right now, number one, he's got the strongest base. The second person after him is Bernie. Even though I really don't think Bernie can win, I'm sorry. But that's the truth. And when I talked to my mom's like, yeah, I noticed that Warren was taking a lot of selfies at the end of this MSNBC, at the end of the debate, and they showed it. And she's like, and I was looking, and she said, and it was mostly white people. Atlanta is the black mecca of excellence. You guys, it's not adding up. It is not adding up. That's all I'm saying. All right, so I think this is going to be the last video I do on Facebook, and everything else is going to be on YouTube. I'll give you guys the information. I think it's under Spirit Path Podcast. It's already a YouTube setup with the podcast. Yeah, we have a podcast, but it's like about spirituality and, just new age stuff. So go to YouTube and search Spirit Path Podcast. I think 3 words. And we have some of like our old podcast videos from like our season 1 last year. Season 2 is already recorded and it's bomb. Okay, this is how I'm tired and I just cannot believe I just said bomb. Oh my God. So anyway, I'm like, you're like, I literally know how old you are now. Oh my God. I am tired though. But my point is, season 2 of our podcast is focused on spiritual activism, is what we call it. So we got some amazing interviews with different people, and it ties into the work we're doing and everything else. So the podcast, the season 2 of Spirit Path Podcast is going to come out next year, like in January or February sometime. We're doing a whole rollout. So, but in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and throw these political videos on there. I'm doing this for these people who asked me to do it. So I'm doing it. So if you see people trying to come for me in the comments, please defend Kimi and I, because we're putting ourselves out there. And if you see any misinformation or just regurgitated, please, and it's incorrect or false, please try to do your best to correct it. You don't have to, but it's helpful. All right, but there's more. There's a lot of other stuff that we're seeing and we want to share and talk about, so I guess God is just using me, or it's like spiritual, or, because I'm very spiritual, and, but I just feel like I'm being put into these situations for a reason, and I'm catching these things for a reason. Because if I wasn't seeing it with my own eyes, and if I wasn't thinking critically, and I wasn't looking at the numbers and looking at history, looking at my experience working with organizing and just working in politics, period, for my parents, for other, people from top to bottom, from local to presidential. This is not my first. I was doing presidential back with Clinton and Gore and Joe Lieberman, anyway, from fundraising to organizing to, all types of stuff, as well as local and social issue back in Chicago. And, anyway, I would probably be thinking that there's something else going on. And I hear that people are, y'all, I'm trying to tell y'all, and this is why I'm coming on here. I'm hearing that other Biden supporters across the country, people are starting to say the same thing, that the media they're not reporting what's happening. So on one hand, I think it's good, because I feel like let them underestimate you. You know what I mean? I think that can be good, but at the same time though, they're trying to slant this because they want Trump. They want Trump in there for 4 more years to make y'all go crazy. Anyway. All right, I'm going to go to sleep. Thanks for listening, for all who care. Ciao.